In this chapter, we looked at light baking in the Unity editor. Light baking is the pre-calculation of lighting into light maps. These are EXR images that store lighting data and then map them onto objects using a second set of UVs. To start with baked lighting, select objects and make sure they're marked as static here in the inspector. We can see in the inspector that right now this is marked for static for everything, including light map, occluder, batching, navigation, occludee static, off-mesh link, and reflection probe. Marking an object as static gets it ready for light baking. We also place light probes. Light probes, these yellow dots here connected by the purple lines, sample baked lighting at specific points in the scene and allow moving or dynamic objects to match into that baked lighting. We also created reflection probes as part of our baking. Reflection probes sample the reflection around an object. In this case, with the stool selected, we can see the reflection probe shown in this wireframe beige box. A reflection probe can be either baked or real-time. We can also do a custom reflection probe if we need. Reflection probes allow an object to have pre-calculated reflections that appear to move dynamically. These are actually rendered and mapped on using a cube map of whatever resolution we choose. The reflection probes then allow objects to look like they're reflecting the scene. We can calculate them as baked reflection probes, sampled once, every frame for moving objects, or custom if we need. Once we've got all those elements ready, getting our light probes in, marking our objects as static, placing our reflection probes and fine-tuning their resolution, we're ready to go to lighting and actually do our bake. Choosing Window and Lighting brings up the lighting window. And in here we have three main areas. Objects, how a particular object looks and reacts in a light map. A scene, and these are our global controls here for our lighting. We can choose our sun if we'd like, putting in this case, our moonlight. We can choose our ambient source from a skybox, from a gradient, or from a color. The ambient color unifies the lighting in a scene and helps add that color to everything. In this case, using a skybox will give a gradient of color subtly on objects. We have an ambient intensity we can adjust. How much contribution is there from an ambient color? And we can also choose to calculate our ambient global illumination in real time or in baked. We can choose a reflection source, running from skybox or custom. And along with that, we can play with the reflection intensity and the number of bounces. How many reflections do we see between reflective objects? In our baked global illumination, we can add ambient occlusion in. Increasing the ambient occlusion amount darkens that ambient occlusion. The max distance will govern how adjacent objects cast ambient occlusion on each other, and out to what distance they do. Remember, this is in scene units in meters, so in this case our ambient occlusion has a max distance of 1. In our lighting window, we can choose whether our builds are auto or manual. Auto builds continually update every time we change the scene. Moving an object in the scene will trigger a new lighting build. If you're adjusting objects and placing things in the level, you may want to turn off the auto building. And dropping down under build, we see we can bake our reflection probes, pre-calculating them, and also clear all baked data. I've checked auto next to the build, and I'm ready to adjust my scene, fine-tuning that lighting to really get the mood I want. In the next chapter, we'll look at animation in the Unity editor, animating position, rotation, scale, lights dimming or brightening, colors changing on materials, and many more different properties. If you can think of it, you can animate it. For now, make sure you get your lighting fine-tuned, testing out dynamic objects as well as statics, and really fine-tuning the color of the scene for a very definite artistic mood in your Zombie Toys game.